The ridge line looked empty through the thermal scope, just another stretch of shattered stone and black pine swaying beneath a freezing midnight wind. Somewhere below, engines murmured in short nervous bursts, and radios crackled with clipped orders spoken in 3 different languages. Men with rifles scanned shadows that were never still long enough to trust. They were hunting a ghost again. No one in the valley used her real name anymore. Most had never known it. The smugglers called her the Pale Widow. Mercenaries called her the Mountain Wraith. The intelligence circles that traded rumors over encrypted channels had their own name for her too, Spectre 9. But among frightened soldiers who survived long enough to whisper about her, one title lingered longer than the rest. The Untraceable Ghost Sniper. Because nobody ever saw where the shot came from. And nobody ever found her afterward. Colonel Idris Vane stood beside an armored truck at the center of the convoy, staring toward the mountains with a jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. He had lost 11 men in 8 days. Every one of them had died with a single bullet through the throat or eye socket. No warning shots, no mistakes, no patterns, only silence, then death. "She's close tonight," muttered one of his officers. Vane didn't answer immediately. He lit a cigarette with shaking fingers, though he would never admit they were shaking from fear. "She's always close," he finally said. A gust of cold air swept through camp. Tarps snapped sharply. Somewhere near the rear vehicle, a guard coughed. Then a shot split the darkness. One sharp crack. The coughing stopped. A body hit the dirt. Chaos erupted instantly. Contact. Where? Find the flash. Soldiers scrambled behind crates and tires while spotlights sliced wildly across the mountainside. Machine guns thundered into the darkness without targets. Muzzle flashes strobed like lightning against the cliffs. Vane dropped beside the truck and pressed a hand against his radio earpiece. "Track the origin." "We can't, sir." Another shot echoed. A spotlight exploded. Then another. Glass rained over screaming men. The valley became blind. That was her method. Never kill too many. Never stay long. Tear apart confidence first. Make men afraid of breathing too loudly. Vane forced himself upright and scanned the ridge with binoculars. Nothing moved except snow. "She's north-facing," he growled. "Third ridge, windward side." "You sure?" "No," he snapped. "But she wants us looking everywhere else." The colonel had studied her for months. He knew she favored impossible angles and impossible escapes. She never repeated a nest location twice. Never used digital signals. Never left shell casings behind. Drones found nothing. Dogs found nothing. It was like hunting smoke. Another shot cracked through the valley. One of the radio operators collapsed backward, blood pouring from his forehead. The surviving soldiers began firing blindly uphill again. And somewhere beyond the panic, hidden beneath layers of rock and darkness, a woman calmly pulled another round from a cloth pouch and fed it into the chamber of a weathered sniper rifle. Lena Vale breathed slowly through her nose while snow gathered along the shoulders of her white cloak. Her heartbeat never changed during a shot. Years ago, instructors had called it unnatural. One examiner compared her pulse to a corpse. She preferred that to panic. Through her scope, she watched the convoy unravel exactly as expected. Men abandoned defensive positions to help the wounded. Officers shouted contradictory commands. Fear widened every gap. She adjusted for wind, exhaled, fired. A tire burst on the lead transport. Vehicles lurched crookedly across the frozen road. Perfect. Lena shifted backward. From the ridge edge before counterfire reached her position. Bullets slammed into rocks seconds later. Too late. Always too late. She packed with mechanical efficiency. Rifle folded. Scope wrapped. Footprints brushed away with a pine branch tied to her belt. Within 40 seconds, the sniper nest ceased to exist. By the time drones reached the ridge, they would find only snow and silence. She descended through a narrow ravine illuminated faintly by moonlight. The route twisted between frozen stones and dead trees like a hidden artery through the mountain. No electronics, no lights, no companions. That was the only reason she was still alive. At the base of the ravine sat an abandoned weather station half buried in snowdrifts. Rust covered the antenna tower. One wall had collapsed years ago. To anyone else, it looked dead. Lena slipped inside. The interior smelled of oil, dust, and old paper. A small lantern glowed near a radio table. Someone was there. Her rifle snapped upward instantly. An old man sat quietly beside the lantern with gloved hands folded over a cane. Gray beard, thick winter coat, calm eyes. "You're late," he said. Lena did not lower the rifle. "You shouldn't be here, and yet here I am. How did you find this place?" The old man smiled faintly. "You trained me too well once upon a time. Recognition struck slowly, then completely. Jonas. Been a long time, Lena. She lowered the weapon by an inch, though not completely. Jonas Mercer had disappeared 12 years earlier during an extraction operation that officially never happened. Mentor, spotter, survivor, the closest thing she ever had to family. And he looked exhausted. You're supposed to be dead, she said quietly. I tried retirement. Didn't suit me. She studied him carefully. No visible weapons. Limp in the left leg. Older than she remembered, but his eyes remained sharp. Dangerously sharp. What do you want? To stop you before the entire continent starts burning. She stared without expression. That already started. Jonas sighed and slid a photograph across the table. Lena picked it up cautiously. A girl around 10 years old smiled at the camera beside a woman standing near a coastal market. Both faces familiar enough to tighten something inside her chest she thought had died years ago. Her sister. And her niece. Alive. For one impossible second, Lena forgot how to breathe. You said they were dead. I was told they were dead, Jonas corrected softly. Her voice hardened instantly. Who has them? Directorate Black. The name hit harder than a bullet. An off-grid intelligence faction buried inside multiple governments. Untouchable. Invisible. Responsible for assassinations blamed on insurgents and wars disguised as accidents. Lena had once worked for them. Before learning too much. Before refusing orders. Before becoming the ghost they failed to erase. They sent Vane after me, she murmured. They sent everyone after you. Jonas leaned forward. And now they're moving your family. Where? Border crossing by dawn. Lena's eyes narrowed. Why tell me this? Because I helped build the monster hunting you. Figured I owed you one honest act before dying. Silence filled the weather station while wind howled outside. Finally, she asked, what's the catch? Jonas gave a tired smile. You walk into an ambush. Obviously, they want you alive now. That's new. You stole something they can't recover without you. Lena looked toward the radio table. Memory surfaced slowly. A drive, encrypted names, bank accounts, operatives hidden across governments and militaries. Enough information to collapse entire intelligence networks. Enough to start wars. She had buried the drive months ago where no satellite could ever locate it. You still have it? Jonas asked carefully. No, a lie. He knew it too. Before either could speak again, the radio on the table hissed with static. Then a voice emerged. Cold, female, call sign Nomad, respond. Lena froze. Only one person ever used that call sign for her. Director Celine Ward, the woman who trained her personally. The woman who ordered her execution. The voice returned, smoother this time. I know you're listening, Lena. Jonas slowly stepped away from the radio. Static crackled softly. Then Ward spoke again. You've become difficult to track. Lena approached the table cautiously and pressed the transmit button. You sound disappointed. A faint chuckle answered. Actually, I'm impressed. The old instincts returned instantly. Emotional detachment. Threat analysis. Exit routes. Ward continued speaking. You killed 36 contractors, disrupted 3 operations, and embarrassed 2 governments. Quite a resume. You murdered civilians and called them operations. Collateral creates stability. Lena's eyes darkened. Tell me where my family is. Come alone and you'll see them alive. Jonas muttered under his breath, trap. Of course it was. Everything with Directorate Black was a trap. Lena pressed the radio again. You could have killed me years ago. We tried. And failed. Yes, Ward admitted calmly. Which is why I'm offering a professional courtesy. Silence stretched. Then Ward said the words that made the room suddenly colder. Ghost Sniper, this is your final recall order. Lena's fingers tightened around the transmitter. No one had used that designation in years. Not since the program. Not since the blood-soaked training camps buried beneath eastern mountain ranges where children learned to shoot before learning algebra. Her call sign. The one erased from every file. The one that pierced straight through the quiet ruins of the woman she had become. Nomad. Jonas watched her face carefully. You okay? No. Outside, snow hammered against broken windows. Ward's voice softened strangely. You were our greatest creation, Lena. Come home. I was never yours. You still think like us. Lena closed her eyes briefly. She remembered rooftops in foreign cities. Desert wind against rifle barrels. Targets collapsing before hearing the shot. She remembered medals handed over in secret rooms and bodies dumped in rivers afterward. She remembered becoming less human each year. Then she remembered her sister laughing over cheap coffee beside an ocean pier long before Directorate Black discovered them. That memory hurt more than all the others combined. Ward interrupted the silence again. Coordinates incoming. Dawn. Don't disappoint me. The transmission died. Jonas exhaled slowly. You can't trust anything she says. I know. But you're still going. Lena looked toward the storm outside. Yes. They'll surround the area. Yes. You may not survive. Her expression hardened into something colder than fear. They won't either. Hours later, the border crossing slept beneath heavy snowfall. Cargo containers formed narrow corridors between floodlights and guard towers. Armed contractors patrolled rooftops while armored SUVs idled near the central warehouse. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Inside the warehouse, Director Celine Ward stood beside a long metal table studying surveillance feeds. Elegant black coat, silver hair tied neatly behind her head. No visible emotion. A younger operative approached nervously. No sign of her yet. She's here already, Ward replied. How can you know? Because the lights failed 13 seconds ago. The operative frowned. Then the first body crashed through the warehouse skylight. Gunfire erupted instantly. Suppressed shots cracked from darkness above. One contractor spun backward with half his throat missing. Another collapsed before raising his rifle. Panic surged through the compound. Sniper. Roof. No. East corridor. She's moving. But they never saw her long enough. Only fragments. A white silhouette crossing catwalks. A muzzle flash vanishing instantly. A shadow slipping between containers. Ward remained perfectly still amid the chaos. She came alone, the operative whispered. No, Ward said quietly. She came angry. The warehouse lights suddenly died. Darkness swallowed everything. Screams echoed outside, then silence. A red emergency lamp flickered weakly overhead. And from somewhere deep inside the compound, a calm female voice spoke through the security speakers. Nomad returning fire. The surviving contractors froze, because every operative in Directorate Black knew that phrase. It was the final transmission Lena Vale sent 12 years ago before vanishing into smoke and blood. The call sign pierced the quiet like a blade, and for the first time in many years, fear touched Celine Ward's face.